Godzilla is now in New York City.
Monster 01 and 02, commence the attack.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Stomp This Way. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I apologize if I'm sounding a little under the weather, because I am feeling a little under the weather, but the show must go on, as they say. Anyway, what are we watching today, Andrew? Or we already watched it, I guess. What are we reviewing today?
We are reviewing Reigo,
Mm-hmm.
King of the Sea Monsters.
Yes. Yes, we are.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Alternate titles. This was actually released, roughly translated, way back in 2008 as Deep Sea Monster Reigo, which is the name of their, operation in the movie that they use.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'll discuss a little bit later, I'll just discuss it now, I guess. When Godzilla King of the Monsters, the 2019 movie was coming out, SRI Cinema had gotten the rights to this and decided to capitalize on the release of that movie. So they did a physical media release, limited VHS and Blu-ray, which I got a Blu-ray, and then I think a wide mass-produced DVD. And they retitled it Reigo King of the Sea Monsters to capitalize on the King of the Monsters subtitle of that movie, which I'm going to use for the title of the episode, Reigo King of the Sea Monsters, because that's the title on the disc that we watched. I mean, I guess technically the original title is Deep Sea Monster Reigo, but anyway.
Yeah.
Also, the global title for this when it was originally released was Reigo the Deep Sea Monster versus the Battleship Yamato. And the working title was simply Reigo versus Yamato. And there's probably some other working titles and rough translations in there, but those are the ones I wrote down.
All the ones you wrote down.
Yeah, so we've both seen this movie before, right? This is our
Yeah.
second viewing, I believe, for both of us. It's been a while. We watched it way back when I first got it, probably in 2019, but or 2020 maybe. Yeah, so excited to revisit it and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Some production trivia. I don't have a whole lot. I mean, I'm sure there's G-Fan articles or other resources you can go to that could tell you a lot about the making of this movie, but this is from a man named Shinpei Hayashiya. He is essentially just a big kaiju movie fan, and he has made a sort of career out of making
Cheap movies.
low budget kaiju movies,
Cheap
glorified fan films, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but basically that's,
What they are.
what they are. I mean, they do sometimes have these low budget production companies attached to them, but he had made a film following, Revenge of Iris, a fan film called Gamera 4 Truth, which was, his follow up to that trilogy. Now, obviously, there's never been an official release of that because of the rights issues that would be involved.
Yeah.
I've never seen it personally. I know that there are some out there in the fandom that have gotten to see it. There were some screenings of it around Japan, I think back in 2003 or something, but really nothing official outside of that. But anyway, it has a lot of fan interest, and because of the fan interest, this production company called Option Inc. hired him to do an original kaiju movie, which is where this movie came out of. So he produced it, and these production company gave him the money for it. It was obviously released in Japan back when it was made. It was like I said, it was re-released on DVD in the US, to coincide with the release of King of the Monsters, and that's why they retitled it. Reigo was actually designed by Kato Amamiya, who had directed a couple of Kamen Rider movies and created the super or the Tokusatsu series Garo, which we have not watched, but is I guess a moderately successful Tokusatsu series in Japan.
Yeah.
And Shinichi Wakasa, who we saw at the convention a couple weeks ago, was actually the guy who designed and his company made the puppets for the Bonefish that you see in the film.
Ooh.
So yeah. And I don't have any box office information. It was released in Japan. I saw a couple different release dates. Wikipedia had May 10th of 2008. I think Wikizilla had like June 12th of 2008 or something, but around that time frame. I think they had actually, I could be wrong about this. I think they had actually, he had made the film like in 2006 or like a portion of it, and then got some more funding and went back and updated it or did some reshoots and stuff, and then actually released it in 2008. But anyway, we're gonna listen to a trailer.
Yes.
The SRS Cinema release trailer.
Ooh.
I've pulled up on YouTube, and then we'll come back and we'll list off the cast and crew and read a plot summary and talk all about Reigo, King of the Sea Monsters. So here's trailer. See you in a bit. All right, we're back. Not a lot of dialogue in that trailer, so you
No?
basically just got a little musical interlude there. But
Yeah.
Anyway, cast and crew. This was directed by Shinpei Hayashiya, written by Shinpei Hayashiya and Keita Toriumi, effects by Hiromi Ogami and Takashi Ogami, music by Kichiro Imamura, and starring Taiyo Sugiura, Mai Nanami, Yukijiro Hotaru, Susume Kurobe, Yoji Tanaka, Yumika Hayashi, and Mickey Curtis. Mickey Curtis. I wonder if that was the American.
The American person.
Anyway, so the plot is more or less as follows. In 1941, the massive battleship Yamato is commissioned, meant to serve as the Imperial fleet. The ship is tasked with escorting a supply convoy across the Pacific. Among the crew on board are stoic Captain Yamagami, young Sub-Lieutenant Takashi Kaido, and sleazy Chief Gunnery Noburo Osako. Kaido leaves behind his girlfriend Che and elderly grandmother, while Osako leaves behind his pregnant wife. However, at the first port, Osako sneaks a young woman on board, who in turn sneaks her grandfather on board, who warns Osako of the legendary Reigo, a giant sea dragon whose coming is preceded by terrifying bonefish. During the voyage, a crew member of the Yamato spots Reigo and mistakes it for an enemy submarine. The Yamato fires on it and kills the child, following it through the waters. Soon after, the Yamato rescues a stranded American sailor named Norman Melville. The Yamato is then attacked by bonefish, and several crew members are killed or injured. Upon questioning, Melville says that the bonefish attacked his vessel as well, and they were soon followed by a giant sea dragon. Reigo soon attacks, sinking a destroyer before retreating back into the depths of the ocean. Yamagami learns he has been promoted to Secretary of the Navy and is ordered to return to the mainland. In his place, a former Naval Academy professor named Matsuda is appointed, who was given the position in part because of his working knowledge of marine life. He summons Kaido so that Kaido can relate his collegiate paper theory on flotation, wherein certain parts of a ship are strategically flooded so that the gun batteries can fire at an angle below the horizontal horizon. His theory is quickly ridiculed by Osako. In the final battle, several more destroyers are sunk before Matsuda agrees to use Kaido's theory. Working together, the crew of the Yamato and Melville, who is dragged into service, successfully tilts the ship and lands a seemingly fatal blow to Reigo. The crew celebrates their victory. Several years later, the Yamato is attacked by American bombers and all on board are killed. One pilot reported seeing a huge black shadow pushing the Yamato down, and we see a shot of Reigo leaping atop the doomed vessel. In the final scene, Che is visiting a shrine honoring her fallen lover, and she passes Osako's wife, towing along the baby boy that Osako always wanted, as credits roll. And then we're treated to like a sort of behind the scenes visual effects reel as the credits roll. Sort of. But anyway, yeah, so that is the film. A brisk 83 minutes. Don't know how brisk. We'll talk about it. But the movie opens, I think the first 8 minutes or so, I looked at the time marker, is in black and white. And actually, if you go to the extras, there's a special feature on the disc where you can actually see a black and white version of the movie. We didn't watch that. We watched the in color version, but
It would probably have been a lot better in black and white.
the effects may have looked a little better in black and white. I don't know, but
Yeah.
no. But I guess he put this first 8 minutes in black and white to establish the kind of the period piece aspect of it, and you know, this is kind of our prelude to the main part of the film. But we're first introduced to Osako, he's played by, hold on just a second, played by Yukijiro Hotaru, who is probably most famous for his appearances in the Heisei Gamera trilogy. And he has a pregnant wife. They look a little old, a little beyond childbearing years, but maybe that's part of the joke. He has a pregnant wife who, and there's a whole bit about he wants the son, and she's like, it could still be a girl, but he makes this funny prayer about, please let the baby have a penis or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's kind of, it's kind of weird that the movie starts with him because I don't think he's not the main character. I don't know if there really is a main character. If there is, I think it's the character that we are introduced to next, who is Taiyo Sugiura, played by Taiyo Sugiura. He's Sub-Lieutenant Kaido. Taiyo Sugiura is most famous for, I think, playing Ultraman Cosmos back in that 2001 show.
Oh, yeah.
This would have been a few years after, obviously, but he is actually, we're introduced to them as an actual young couple. He has a girlfriend. He keeps calling her a childhood friend.
Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure they have sex on the beach, or at least it's implied that they do. But she's sad, obviously, because he's going off to war. Him and Osako have been called into service to be on this battleship Yamato. The movie starts at the very beginning with kind of some informational, like voiceover about the battleship Yamato and how, all the disarmament treaties were basically null and void in 1936. And so the Japanese Navy decided they wanted to build this grand battleship. It's a real battleship, the Yamato. It was the flagship of the Imperial Fleet, which is why there's all these anime and movies that are used to fictionalize, space battleship Yamato or whatever.
It's a very popular ship.
It's a very popular ship in Japanese pop culture. But
Yeah.
anyway, some informational text on it, all of which I assume is real. Not the movie, obviously, but anyway, he's going to leave behind this not girlfriend Che, and his elderly grandmother, who, in somewhat of a moving scene, has like these, flags that like signal the planes or whatever as they're coming in for landings or whatever, and she is like signaling to Kaido as he's as the Yamato's leaving port or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's kind of the prelude, and that's the first scene in color is when she's signaling him as they're leaving or whatever. And then we get on the ship, and the rest of this movie is going to take place, except for a couple of cutaways back to the mainland. The rest of this movie is going to take place on sea, at sea. And I would say the other kind of major recognizable face, I'm sure several of these people are probably in other things that I just don't recognize, but
Oh yeah.
Susumu Kurobe, of course, is the captain of the Yamato. He is, of course, Shin Hayata from the original Ultraman. It's kind of impressive that he got this cast. I mean, like, you would think like in a project like this, maybe, Susumu Kurobe and Taiyo Sugiura would make like cameos, but they're actually like major cast members of this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Hotaru is, from what I can tell, probably a pretty close personal friend of Shinpei Hayashia because he's in a lot of these Hayashia movies.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna go on sea, and there's a lot of this movie is people sitting around at tables or walking around just talking to each other or being drunk, and Osaka, he's kind of sleazy. One of the first scenes at sea is, I guess they're at some port or something, and he sneaks, like, of course we had the big opening scene with him having a pregnant wife, but he's immediately sneaking some young woman on board to have sex with, and she is kind of a funny moment. She sneaks her grandfather on board because her grandpa just has to tell this guy about the legendary Reigo, who is, his coming is preceded by the terrifying bonefish or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's this whole bit at the beginning, but it's supposed to be kind of our, like, a lot of these movies, you have to have like the harbinger of doom or whatever, usually in the form of an old man. And that's what this guy, his role is. And anyways, but yeah, a lot of the movie is people sitting around talking about the issue. What are we going to do? Screaming at each other as stuff is going wrong. But I think early on in the movie, there's a scene where it's at night and one of the sailors like spots what we know as the fins are going to be the fins of Reigo. So they think it's an enemy submarine, of course, and I don't know what enemy submarine looks like that, but they
could be a new American submarine.
Could be. They even say what class of submarine it is, but they shoot it, and Wikipedia tells me that it's the child of the Reigo that is killed. I kind of assume that. I mean, it could have been like waifu Reigo for all I knew. I don't know, but anyway, but the child is killed and sinks, and that Reigo is going to be out for revenge. I guess we're to assume that if this would have happened, would Reigo have left them alone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so that happens. And then I think it's after this they find the sailor floating in the water. Osaka sees him, and they pull him out. And I think they're trying to kind of pass this off as a white guy. It's obviously a Japanese man. He might be mixed. He looks a little less tan, but and they've like colored his hair like a lighter color.
Yeah.
But and they try to say that he speaks English, but his English is obviously heavily accented. He does not speak English. He only speaks, and for most of the movie, he speaks Japanese.
Yeah, the excuses. He speaks a little bit of Japanese.
A little bit. A little bit is very fluent, and because Taiyo is going to try to speak English to him, but then he starts speaking Japanese. But whatever. It's a fan film. I'll give it that. Whatever. There are bigger productions like Shin Godzilla that try to pass worse people off as not white but as American.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then I think it's pretty soon after this that they get attacked by the bonefish. There's like these bright flashing lights in the sea. I guess they're luminescent, and they're like these giant exoskeleton bone-looking fish that jump out of the water and
kill everybody.
Tear a guy's arm off and kill a couple people, and so on and so forth.
10 people missing and 2 dead.
Yeah, and So then they're, the commanders are realizing, oh, there's actually like a problem here, and they start to believe that Reigo might exist. And I think this is not soon after we have the scene where like they tell some of the people to get together, and regardless of rank, they want them to hash out the issue, and it just evolves. I think it's supposed to be kind of a comedic scene. It just evolves into a yelling match and this, but eventually like Reigo attacks and sinks one of the destroyers or whatever. All of the attack scenes are going to take place at night. It's said that he's a deep sea creature, so he doesn't like the light, obviously. And then we're going to get a lot more of people like sitting around fretting about the issue and all this. At one point, the captain, played by Kurobe, he gets a letter that he's been called back to serve as Secretary of the Navy. And we see that he's upset. I mean, I don't think it's ever really spelled out. I guess we're to assume he's upset because he wanted to like solve this Reigo problem before he was called back to the mainland. And I think it's supposed to be kind of a funny bit. Like he holds up, he's angry and he's using his spoon to stab the, mango or whatever he's eating. And he holds it up at one point, kind of like his whatever it was called, his thing that he used to transform into Ultraman back in the day.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's called back, and then he gets replaced with this Captain Matsuda guy who is like a former teacher at the Naval Academy. He taught Kaido at the Naval Academy, and I guess he was brought on because he has like some working knowledge of marine biology. And I guess the government recognizes that this Reigo is actually real, so they sent him to like come and try to handle the issue. And anyway, so Reigo attacks again and sinks some more destroyers, and then this is when Matsuda like calls Kaido in and asks him to like tell them his commanding officers about his paper on flotation, where he basically said theorized about strategically flooding certain parts of a ship so that you could, because back in the old days those battleships had those giant battery cannons that could only aim, the lowest they could aim was horizontal, directly horizontal on like the x-axis or whatever. But he proposed this theory about flooding parts of the ship so that it would tilt and you could fire your cannons below the horizontal the horizontal line of the horizon or whatever. And anyway, he's laughed off, and then Reigo, and then we kind of there's some scenes of like there's like this weird scene where he gets a letter from Che, and this pop song plays, and I think there's some like cutback
voiceover of her reading the letter.
Yeah, and at times like Kaido has random voiceovers of the movie where he's like, and I don't remember what they were, but like the first time they see Reigo and stuff, and random voiceovers come in. But yeah, there is like, I thought like a really interesting historical tidbit where he gets the letter, and like, I guess before the soldiers and sailors and stuff got mail, like the government censors would go through and like with a Sharpie, like mark out the parts of the letter they didn't like. I guess because she was talking about having rations and stuff. And so he only saw like a little bit of the letter, but we got it in like voiceover or whatever. But so that was a bit of an interesting historical tidbit that you don't really think about, or I wasn't aware of it was a thing. But anyway, so basically let's just get into the final battle. There's Reigo shows back up. Matsuda decides that he wants to use the spotlights to like draw it in and then like use their depth charges and batteries against it. But it becomes clear pretty quickly that that's not working. So they're going to go with Kaido's plan to like, tilt the ship and shoot it. And, they misfire first. I guess it works. I mean, even though like when they actually hit it, it's like leaping out of the water. So I don't think they really had to tilt the ship to hit it when it was jumping out of the water. But they had like his plan works.
Jumping out of the water on the other side, and they were tilted.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they could aim the batteries up. I don't know. Whatever. It works. They get a clean shot on Reigo, and then, we kind of have like our sentimental moment where it's dying and like all the ships are shooting their machine guns at it, and you know, just like his pacifist self when he was Ultraman Cosmos, Kaido's like, stop firing, he's dying, you know, and Matsuda's like, you know, yeah, you don't torture a dying animal or whatever. And so they quit firing, and it seems like Reigo dies and
He
sinks.
dies.
And then that's with about 15 minutes left to go in the movie. And then the rest of the movie gets pretty wacky. We get like this. I'm sure there's like this is like a Japanese stage play style that has a term that I'm ignorant of, but like this, it goes black and white again. And we see like this, you know, Japanese like stage actor dressed in all like the white face paint and stuff, like dancing around, and he's
Like
in
a
color.
red dress thing.
Yeah, and he's in color, and then like all the actors, like we see the crew that we follow through the movie. Like it says it's 2 years later, even though I thought the rest of the movie was in 1941, but I guess it's in 1943. And this is where like I guess historically accurate, Yamato got ambushed by American bombers and was attacked and sunk. And we get, you know, a series. We see the crew that we follow through the movie is like they get like shot up or killed, but then they like, you know, look at the camera with like their blood like in red streaks on their faces. That is only the red's in color. They also add in this bit about a pilot reporting to see a giant shadow pushing the ship down, and I guess we're to take this as a literal, like the Reigo jumps out of the sea and lands on top of the battleship, even though it's during the day. Why would it do it during the day? But whatever. And like,
It's the ghost of Reigo coming back.
maybe it's the ghost of the Reigo coming back to get it and pushes it underwater or whatever as it's sinking. And so then we get a kind of a emotional ending where Che is at a shrine several years later, honoring her fallen lover, childhood friend, whatever.
Childhood.
And as she's walking out, she walks by Osako's wife, and she's got a little boy in tow, which is the little boy you always wanted. And I guess they're going to the shrine to honor him too, even though he was a sleazy piece of POS. But
she loved him.
She loved him anyway. And yeah, that's in the movie. And then, like I said, we kind of get a sort of in part behind we see like them have Reigo like wires in front of a green screen, and them doing that kind of stuff, and
the dancer guy behind the screen.
Doing his bit. It's a weird ending. At first, I was like, "Are we supposed to take this as kind of a joke?" But I think it's his attempt. Hayashi is attempt to being kind of artsy, and sentimental. But yeah, that's the end of the movie. Basically, like, listen. I tried to keep in mind as I was watching it, it's a glorified fan film. There are funny bits that I like. I appreciate the cast that he put together. A lot of the movie, obviously they didn't have the budget, even with their admittedly poor effects, that to have this movie be a constant battle sequence. But there's a lot of this movie where people are just sitting around talking, or in the command room screaming at each other, or random voiceovers with pop songs popping in and out. And it's just like, oh my God, let's just get back to the Reigo bit.
I think the next couple of things they made had more action in it.
Yeah, we'll get to those, but I think if memory serves, Reiga is more. There's a lot more monster stuff in it.
And the god Reiga and Reigo or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, for this movie, there's a lot of sitting around and talking, and like I said, there are some funny bits, especially with Osako, who's I think like the main comedic relief character.
Yeah.
That are kind of funny. I mean, there's this one ship commander that's like very over the top. He's got like an eye patch and he's bald and
he always
has his uniform unbuttoned and his chest puffed out. And I mean, there are funny bits that I like. I mean, some of the sentimental bits kind of work.
Kind of.
I don't know. I got even though it's only like 83 minutes, I got kind of bored through a lot of it. And you know. And then to talk about the Reigo stuff, I think we'd have to get into our effects section. But first of all, let's do creature design.
Reigo.
So there's actually is I mean, you see it in the behind the scenes stuff, a physical prop that they made for Reigo.
Yeah, and you see it in the movie.
And you see it in the movie, and I think the actual prop itself looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It reminds me kind of like of DeGarla from Remember Rebirth of Mothra 2.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a little more sinister looking. But I think the prop itself looks good, and then there's actually like physical puppets of the bonefish they made, which out of the water look, like puppets,
Yeah.
out of water. But I mean, the actual design is fine.
None of this was actually in water.
No, I mean, there's like some real shots of like the sea, kind of getting into effects. I mean, there are some impressive like actual like nature shots of like the sea and the sun setting, the sun rising, and some island shots and stuff like that. And I think that the interior design works. I don't know if they filmed any of this on like a museum battleship or something, but I think they did a pretty good job of like their interior shots making it look like they were on
A battleship.
some kind of military vessel. I don't think they got like the reason I don't think they actually filmed much of this on a real vessel, even if like just like a museum or whatever, is because we don't have any like grand sweeping shots or tracking shots of the interior of the ship. It's all like in close up shots, close quarters. So I think this was probably just a decorated set. But that being said, for the budget, I think the interior design is fine. And there's some shots on the deck of the ship. Again, no grand sweeping shots or anything, but in close quarters, in close crop shots,
It
look
looks
pretty good. I mean, you can tell the ship's not swaying, but that's okay,
It's it's cheap.
Again, but
They probably couldn't afford to pay to get an actual be on the ship.
yeah. But the CGI is just bad. I mean, it's just really bad. I mean, it's
What do you expect from a
very
movie like this?
undetailed, very glossy, very glossy. It's very shuddery anytime it's a CGI shot because they can't film, a lot of frames. I can't animate a lot of frames, but
Yeah.
so that but that's a given. Like I said, it's a glorified fan film. One thing that I do think they could have done better is, like I said, I actually like the physical prop they made for Reigo, but every time, even when it's a physical prop, they film it with like a weird frame rate, so it looks very shuddery. It just doesn't look very good. But
And they didn't have good cameras, probably.
I mean, I think they were filming these on probably cheap digital cameras, but they still could. I don't know. Like I said,
It's there, and it would probably be harder than you think.
apparently that was kind of a controversy because when SRS Cinema put it out on Blu-ray, one of the like reviewers or whatever was like, it's not really in high definition. You can watch the DVD and it's the same exact picture, quality. And SRS Cinema like came back and pushed back and was like, well, even if, he filmed it on standard definition, like it's not as compressed on Blu-ray disc or whatever, but I'm not here to weigh in on that controversy, but it did kind of look like you probably could have got the same picture quality on the DVD. But anyway,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and some of the stylistic stuff like the black and white, I don't mind parts of it being in black and white. I think it's a decent artistic choice. And then the whole bit at the end is very artsy, interesting, maybe a better word. I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
And like I said, maybe we should have watched the black and white version. Might have helped a little bit because I think the shot of Reigo in black and white leaping on top of the ship might be the best looking scene of the movie,
Yeah.
visual effects wise. It's kind of like The Mist. They say The Mist looks a lot better and it's a black and white version. Obviously, this film's not of the quality of The Mist, but, the effects are, they're bad, but, and then score, I think obviously it's very minimalistic. They couldn't afford a grand, orchestra or whatever. But I think Mr. Kiichiro Imamura tries to emulate like a classic kind of like Showa era kaiju score the best he could. So I appreciate that. The pop songs are a little pull you out of the movie a little bit, but they're there. But anyway, you want to get some final thoughts?
Sure.
Why don't you go for it?
Well, like we said, this movie it's a glorified fan film, so you can't expect too much from it. And the effects aspect, and the acting, because they didn't have in the camera work because they didn't have budget.
Yeah. Yeah, the camera is mostly stationary for most of this film, especially
Yeah.
like in the non-visual effect shots.
It just sat there and you had to be in frame, or if you because that was not moving.
It wasn't moving. Yeah.
And the acting it's okay for a movie of this quality.
I mean, he has
Yeah.
some real actors in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know how much they even got paid for this, but
Yeah.
they probably just was like, yeah, why not? I have free time.
Yeah.
But the effects, like I said, are terrible.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. They're terrible.
They're bad.
But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They couldn't probably help that.
No, I mean, I'm sure the effects, was probably a very small crew doing this on a very short timetable. So, it is.
And
what
a
it is.
very limited resources.
Yeah, definitely.
But the score in this is decent. It's there. I don't mind it. The pop songs are whatever.
Yeah.
They're pop songs that you can listen to anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they just like, that sounds like a good pop song. I'll put it in here.
Yeah.
And I'll give this movie, I'll give it a D plus.
A D plus. Yeah. Listen, I tried to give this movie as many breaks as I could because, like I said, and I don't mean this as a slight. I really don't. I really appreciate Hayashi's love for the kaiju genre and that he's spent so much of his life putting together these, low budget films just because he loves it, not for any kind of monetary, gain or anything, as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware. So I really appreciate that
I
part
don't
of
know
it.
what monetary gain you would gain. from
Probably not
this.
much. I really appreciate his dedication to the kaiju genre and the fact that he loves it enough to do this kind of stuff. And I try to give this movie as many breaks as I could. At the end of the day, it's just not a good movie. I wish that Hayashida would have leaned more into the ridiculous aspect of it. There are plenty of ridiculous scenes, don't get me wrong, and especially with the character of Osako, but I think that kind of needed to be the whole movie. I think he actually tries to have some real sentimental and serious moments, which kind of hurt this movie in the long run because the visuals around it are so poor. But if memory serves, he does lean into more of the ridiculousness of it with his follow-ups. So,
Yeah.
and we'll have to revisit those and see, and we will in the coming
We
weeks.
will. Don't worry.
Don't worry, they're coming. But yeah, it's just unfortunately it's just not a very good movie. There's just a lot of sitting around and talking in this movie that really drags the movie down, and the fact that the visuals are not very good and the tone's uneven, and some of the artsy stuff is really out of left field, and the pop songs that just come out of nowhere, and some of the narration that kind of comes out of nowhere on occasion just kind of throw you off. And yeah, it's just unfortunately it's not a very good movie. I'm gonna give it like a D, but A for effort, B for effort. I don't know, but no, it's a D. That being said, we do have some things to talk about. We're gonna do a couple of reviews of Godzilla games. And then we're going to talk about some actual news. So this product's been out for a while, but Andrew and I played it for the first time the other day. Godzilla Jenga. I bought it at Mall of America while Dylan and I were on our trip to Minnesota, Minneapolis. And Andrew and I actually broke it out for the first time the other day. And what were your thoughts, Andrew? Initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts? Interesting.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That's the first time that I've played Jenga of any type before. So that was my first time being exposed to Jenga. It's basically traditional Jenga, but there's an added element where there's this little, not really a game board, but like this game strip, and it has like markers on it, like 1 block, you know, then it goes to 2 blocks and three blocks or whatever. And you have like your little Godzilla piece,
Dice.
and there's a die on it, and you start Godzilla at like the beginning of the strip, and you roll a die, and it tells you like basically how many blocks you have to remove, and if Godzilla moves forward a spot, and every time Godzilla moves forward a spot, essentially you have to end up removing more blocks. And the concept is like Godzilla's footsteps are shaking more blocks loose or whatever.
Yeah.
And, if you like Jenga, it was kind of fun, kind of a neat little twist on Jenga. I'm not any good at Jenga because I said it's my first time playing it, but
Putting together the Jenga blocks, that's the hardest part of Jenga.
yeah, it's the most tedious part of Jenga.
Yeah.
But if you like Jenga, I mean, I think and you like Godzilla, it's a good combination of the two. I just wish, like, the one thing that kind of bugged me is that the instructions are kind of unclear. I thought, like, after Godzilla got past, like, the last marker on the strip, like, he just knocked the building down. But it doesn't really clarify that in the instructions. And I guess, you just get stuck at 3 blocks removed or whatever. But that's
and it
okay.
makes it really hard at the person. Because, if you move 3 blocks every time, it's gonna come down to no blocks.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah, and if Godzilla did advance past that, then like the game would be over really quick, like all the time. So I guess I don't know, but anyway, overall, I
Because
thought
whoever gets stuck on that loses automatically.
Yeah, I thought it was a good twist on Jenga, a good Godzilla twist on Jenga overall.
But we also got the new Godzilla card game.
That's right. Andrew got his booster pack in the his starter pack in the mail, and so let's review that. I mean, it took us a little bit to get on board with it. Like, I was confused about the construction of the deck for a little bit. We had to watch some YouTube videos along with reading the instructions on how to play.
I think I finally taught Aaron how to do it.
I think we fought together, collaboratively, got the rules down, and played a couple of rounds. And Andrew, you got more experience with trading card games. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was a decent game. It's pretty much like any standard trading card game. You have your play mat, and you have where your cards go, and you have where your special cards go, and where your standard cards go.
Yeah.
Battle cards, like they're called, and your rage cards.
Your monster cards.
Your monster cards. It's decent. I didn't mind it. I rather enjoyed it once we got to playing it.
Yeah, I did too. I think
not arguing over rules.
Yeah. The basic concept is like you have these 8 zones, and Godzilla, you have to advance your Godzilla monster through the zones, and eventually there's 2 ways to win. Either you cross over onto your opponent's playmat after you go through 8 zones, or he repels you 4 times. Yeah, and then at that point he wins.
You basically have 4 lives.
Yeah, you have 4 lives. And it gets more, your card has more, threat level points or whatever, and they're harder to repel the more, the higher stage you go or whatever. No, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it more than the Ultraman card game, which we only played the one time.
And it's a lot better understanding.
Yeah, and the Ultraman card game, I thought, at least the way we were playing it, we might have not been playing it right. It was too easy to end the game pretty quickly.
I'm 90% sure we were not playing.
But this game, it had more of a process to it. And, once I figured out the rules, I thought it was pretty fun. And you could, work on your strategy. And once, build out your deck more.
It wasn't like the way we were playing Ultraman card game. You could actually repel the other person.
Yeah. So, like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with trading card games. I mean, the first time, I think I've tried to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Maybe one time with Andrew. We played the Ultraman card game one time, and then I played this one time, and that's pretty much my experience with trading card games. But
I got pretty good at Yu-Gi-Oh!
Andrew got pretty big into Yu-Gi-Oh! For a while, but I thought it was pretty fun. Maybe next year we'll join a tournament at G-Fest or something.
If they have a G-Fest.
I'm sure they will next year.
Probably.
But you want to move on to some actual news items?
Sure.
All right. Well, Shin Godzilla, I've talked about as being released August 14th. They're going to release it in the 4DX and D-Box formats.
What is the D-Box?
Well, we've done a D-Box movie before, way back in the day. D-Box is the moving seats. Remember, I don't know if you were old enough to remember the San Andreas movie with The Rock. We did go to a D-Box in Dallas or somewhere for that. That's the only time I've done D-Box because there's not like a local theater that does it. But I remember it having a pretty good time. And then,
that was like the perfect movie to do that with.
Yeah, that was like the perfect movie. And then 4DX it has the moving seats, but it also has other elements. Like it's like, a 4-dimensional movie. They blow wind on your face. They have certain scents that can come out.
And they have like mist spray.
I think they spray mist if there's water in a movie or something. And so like it's an immersive experience. I've never been to a 4DX movie. I've been looking to see if there's like some showtimes we could go, maybe to OKC or whatever and watch it. Andrew, you have to work. 4DX, I think, is only on like Wednesday and Thursday. There are still some D-Box showings on Saturday. So, I don't know. I've been thinking about it. Maybe we'll go.
Because when the Godzilla footsteps.
Yeah, maybe we'll go see it in D-Box. We'll have to drive probably to more. If no other theaters closer get it in that format. I don't see any others closer. I think there are some D-Box and 4DX theaters in Tulsa, but they don't have Shin Godzilla on their schedule right now. And there's also some in North Little Rock, which technically would be a little bit closer of a drive. But again, they don't have it on their schedule right now. So it's looking like Moore may be our closest one, which is, for you not familiar with the area, Moore is just south of OKC. It's most famous for being wiped out by tornadoes a couple of times, but
gotta be famous for something.
Gotta be famous for something, but so anyway, we'll see. We'll see if you don't have to work that weekend. You've been taking weekend shifts. We'll see. If you could take off on a Thursday, we could go see it in 4DX on a Thursday. But I know you don't like taking days off. But anyway, and then
vacation. What's that?
What's that? And then I did mention last week that I was going to be reviewing one Marvel Godzilla crossover comic each week until I run out of this initial 6-issue thing. This week is Godzilla versus Hulk.
Oh.
And spoiler alert, if you don't want to have any spoilers, the basic plot is Godzilla. It's set back in the like 60s or 70s, and Godzilla is, a threat or whatever. And basically the Thunderbolts, not the movie version of the Thunderbolts, but like the original Thunderbolts of the comics, which were like a team of like bad guys, mad scientists that Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross put together, which is why they're called the Thunderbolts. Makes a little more sense than the movie, but they have built a couple of Mecha Godzillas to defeat Godzilla. And one of the mad scientists, I forget what character it was, also has made Hedorah. It's like his ultimate failsafe to kill Godzilla and Thaddeus Ross and everybody. And anyway, so Bruce Banner, who nobody knows as Hulk, is piloting one of the Mecha Godzillas. And of course, when Godzilla destroys it, he hulks out, and the bad guy releases Hedorah, and Hedorah like kills Godzilla or defeats Godzilla, and then Hulk like bleeds on Godzilla and gives him some of his gamma radiation, so Godzilla like hulks out and turns into like a Hulk Godzilla, and like immediately blows away Hedorah, and Hulk saves Thaddeus Ross, and yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it was fun just to see, like, again, much like the Godzilla versus Fantastic Four comic, just to see like those elements, like that classic Hulk elements come together, lore with Godzilla, and seeing like Godzilla and the Mecha Godzilla, like they were old, they were drawings of like the old school original Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah.
Seeing those on a comic book page, and Hedorah on a comic book page, and the OG Thunderbolts was interesting since we just saw that movie a few months ago, and I wasn't really familiar with the OG Thunderbolts. and seeing all those elements come together. I will say it was a little disappointing because Hulk never actually fought Godzilla. Like, it was like Hulk immediately teams up with Godzilla to fight Hedorah, and Godzilla just kind of hulks out or whatever. I wish, like in the Fantastic Four comic book, at least he fought the Fantastic Four before they teamed up and fought Ghidorah or whatever. I wish he'd have had like a fight with Hulk first, but he doesn't. But it was still neat. It was a short comic book. It was thinner than the other one. So it was still neat. Worth, the brief 5-minute read or whatever, but and to see the art. But yeah, that was my review. Up next, I believe, is the one I've been anticipating because it's my two of my favorite, fictional characters of all time, Godzilla and Spider-Man, which I'm pretty sure is going to involve Venom and Godzilla venoming out. But
oh my goodness, Godzilla Venom.
Yeah, so we'll see though. I'll read that this week and report on that next week. Other than that, I believe the movie for next week will be the Ultraman Taiga movie.
Ooh.
Which, did we even watch the Taiga movie? I'm sure we did.
I think so.
I think we did. I don't remember it, but we'll be revisiting that and reviewing that next week, and then we'll be reviewing Reigo. I believe the subtitle is God of the Monsters. And then
he's like a land monster.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's more of a traditional like Godzilla shaped monster.
Yeah.
And then another Ultraman movie, then King Reigo or God Reigo versus King Orga or whatever that movie is, and so on and so forth. But so yeah, next week is the Ultraman Taiga movie, so check that out. Other than that, you can, of course, always contact us at stopthisway1954@gmail.com.
And you can find our website at www.stompthisway.wordpress.com.
That's right. And I think I've got the website more or less updated. And you can also follow us on Facebook at Stomp This Way. So, again, Ultraman Taiga next week. And as always, I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And we'll see you next time.